Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. I have another interview. I have here with me today, Stylez.
Yeah.
Stylez is of Puerto Rican descent, or you could call him a Nuyorican. Now, for everyone listening, before anyone starts with the Nuyorican ain't real Puerto Ricans, and why don't you get a real Puerto Rican from the island, and all that stuff, guys, let's save the dramatics for right now, and let's just be open to listen, okay? But I do also have an interview coming up with a Puerto Rican that was born and raised on the island as well.
That's peace.
So yeah. So South Styles, you were born here in the U.S.
Actually, I was born abroad in Japan on a military
Oh,
base. My peoples was in the
okay.
military. They were both in the Navy.
Mm-hmm.
But I
Oh
was raised
wow.
I was raised predominantly my youth was in Jersey City, New York area, back and forth from Jersey City to New York.
Mm-hmm.
hmm
Okay. Were your parents born on the island, or were they born here too?
Yeah, both of my parents were born on the island. My mother was born in Maya West, and my father was born in Guayama.
Okay, nice. Okay, so you're
hmm
basically, well, I would call you a first generation, but I mean, even though technically you weren't born in the U.S., but kind
Yeah,
of
when
same.
I looked it up, when I did the knowledge to it, and I was like, what makes a Puerto Rican? Like on technical terms, they say that if both your parents were born in Puerto Rico, then you're technically a Puerto Rican national. But it's
Oh.
blurred lines because I'm pretty sure you're aware of the political status of Puerto Rico as far as it being the Commonwealth of the United States and all that. So
Mm-hmm.
it's really like blurred lines because everybody on the island pretty much has citizenship,
Yeah.
but they have like a level of second class citizenship on the island versus people who live on the island. I mean, people who live in the mainland part itself.
Okay. That's interesting. I always hear Puerto Ricans refer to the U.S. as the mainland. Well, not always, but I've heard it a couple times. So it's interesting.
Because it's more or less like the way the United States is operating in current days is like an empire. Like all of
Yeah.
its bases around the world will be considered its territory. So since I personally was born in Japan on foreign soil, I was still technically born in the United States. I'm still a natural born citizen because I was born on
Mm-hmm.
a military base. So if I
Uh-huh.
wanted to run for president or something like that, I'll be legally able to because I'm still considered a natural born citizen. And technically everybody in Puerto Rico is too.
Okay. Yeah.
Mhm. So
Gotcha.
that's why they consider it the mainland because
Mm-hmm.
that's where all the political, um, like where all the main determination of its state it takes place at. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you been to Puerto Rico?
Once when I was a youth, like around 10, it was only
Okay.
for like a week, but I remember like it was yesterday. I never
Yeah.
had that feeling that again, the closest I live in Orlando now. I've been living down here for a few years, so like this is the closest that I got into that vibration, just the atmosphere, and I just remember
Mm-hmm.
getting off the plane, seeing the flag, and
Yeah.
just getting a sense of euphoria. Like, yo, this is where I need to be. Because even though like Jersey City, New York is like my home base, like that's where most of my family's at. That's where I grew up at, learned how to be a man at. I've never really truly felt like I lived in my own country, and I never really had that feeling until I went to Puerto Rico. You know what I'm saying?
Wow. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice. Wow. Yeah,
hmm
I mean, it's definitely a different feeling. Traveling back to, I mean, a lot of us would call our parents' countries, the motherland.
hmm
So yeah, just kind of feeling that connection, like, dang, like this is where my family comes from, like my roots, are
Yeah,
here.
yeah. It's a
So
beautiful feeling. It's definitely a
yeah,
beautiful feeling.
for
hmm
sure.
Indeed.
So okay, so I thought you were still living in New York, but you said now you're in Florida.
Yeah,
Um,
nah. Last I lived in New York was like in 2016, 2017, but I go back frequently.
okay.
hmm
Okay, so at this point, do you even consider yourself like a New Yorican? Like,
I
or
do because the reason why, because I remember growing up, my father always used to claim that, right? And I used to be like, "Yo, Pa, you from Jersey City? What are you talking about? How you Nuyorican?" And he left Jersey City when he was 19. He joined the military, traveled the world. He came back a few times, but I just got like no matter where you at, it's all about like just what you vibe with. You know what I'm saying? Like I
Mhm.
remember going to Texas and meeting New Yorkers in Texas, and they've been down there for like 20
Mm.
years, but they still they still have that connection. They still have that influence. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
we're everywhere because of all the gentrification that's been going on the last 15, 20 years, a lot of it's been displaced economically, so we all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I like being here, because it feels like a little bit of home, because you run into so many Nuyorican, and it's just like, it's nothing but a hitchcotch in a way. You hop on a plane, it's real cheap, and you're back home.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's true. And
Yeah.
I have heard some people mention that there has kind of been like an exodus of Puerto Ricans out of New York,
Yeah.
because of, I guess because of how you mentioned the gentrification going on and stuff like that.
Yeah, a lot of us go to either PA, like Perth Amboy, that's in Jersey. A lot go to Florida, Orlando, Kissimmee, Porciano area.
Mm-hmm.
We wherever we could go to make a living.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I feel you on that. True,
yeah.
true. So, for everyone watching, you may have remembered Self Styles was on the first Latino live stream that I
Second,
did. Oh, it was the
second.
second one?
Yeah, it was the second one.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So you were on there for a while and you was spitting a lot of knowledge.
I was
Um,
trying to.
yeah. So, what were some of the things that stood out to you from that live stream? Or maybe something that you would like to elaborate more on that we covered?
Well, first and foremost, so I gotta give it up to you. I really appreciate like your whole platform and what you're doing. I think it's regardless of differences and adversities, I think it's important that we build a dialogue, and
Mm-hmm.
I love the fact that we're able to connect the way we are, and kind of from all around the world. You know what I'm saying? Or all around the country
Yeah.
and all that. I think that's a beautiful thing. But it, to be honest with you, it was like organized chaos to me. You know what I'm saying? And even though
Yeah, it was pretty
it
crazy.
was some good information in there, it was some good people dropping some gems, and the dialogue was important to have. But it got to a point where it was just like, all right, I feel like there was always a saying that I live by: never argue with the fool, because from a distance you can't tell who is who. So it got to a point where a lot of it I felt like was dealing with too much bipartisan political shit, and part of my
Mm.
language. And
Okay.
so I just figured I took a time to step back. All right, let me just listen and see what people got to say and absorb, and just kind of come up with my own conclusion, because I didn't feel like I could really too much express myself in that what you say, that panel. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I mean, it was
Yeah.
dope nonetheless. I still took a lot from it. It's a beautiful thing that you're doing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the three of us now three live streams, they are supposed to be more focused on the concept of Latin unity. Well, that was one of the things we wanted to touch on, especially for those of us here in the United States. And as you can see, we can't even like agree on what the hell is it that makes us Latinos or Hispanic, if you prefer Hispanic. We couldn't decide on what makes us Hispanic, and then we definitely couldn't even decide on what is it that binds us to other Hispanics, because
Yeah.
everyone has their own ideas.
Yeah.
I do think though that there is, some common heritage that we share.
Mhm.
And I think especially, when it comes to the Caribbean, us Caribbean Hispanics, we have a lot of shared history. There was the whole Antillean Confederation that was, and well, never really fully came to, be
Yeah. It was
something
an ideal.
concrete.
It was an ideal.
So I feel
Yeah.
like there's always been like a sense of solidarity between, DR, Puerto Rico, and Cuba.
Yeah.
And not to mention there's a lot of shared culture, a lot of
Mhm.
shared customs. Even our like genetic ethnic makeup is very similar.
What a
So
fact.
I don't know. Sometimes I feel like maybe it's the concept of unity is easier among the different regions versus
Yeah.
the entirety of Latin America. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, me personally, I advocate for Antillean unity. I love that idea. I've always uh, been fascinated with that idea, the unification of the main islands, or all the islands for that matter, because it just makes sense economically. It makes sense culturally. I just believe a lot of our differences are artificial and are by design. Even though there are we live out our history, and we have our own experiences and stuff like that. But I think the United States is a great example of success in adversity. You know what I'm saying? I've driven all across the country, and I've learned to appreciate the adversity of this country. Meaning, when I was growing up, I couldn't fathom anything outside of like the New York area. You know what I'm saying? I couldn't fathom how other people lived and how they operated outside of that dynamic. So when I finally was able to get out of that box, I really, had my mind blown, like how like the Midwest is a lot of indigenous people. You go to LA and you damn near feel like you're in Mexico, or you
Yeah.
go in the mountains of the Dakotas and it's predominantly white, but it's still a beautiful country and a beautiful place to be. It's just so diverse in heritage and culture, but it's still one nation and it still operates under one, entity, and it's been successful. So I believe that we downplay our own success because of a lot of the forces that work against us, and we fall victim to a lot of conscious deflation of our stagnation, if you will. You know what I mean? It's like it's how can I explain it or put it in words? Like, all right, we often look at certain countries and we like look at them, like look at Venezuela, look at Cuba, like it doesn't work, these systems don't work, but then we won't look at like a Sweden, or we won't look at other countries around the world that implement similar systems and are successful. We're always scaling on a negative level because that's what we've been taught to do, but we don't look behind the ball. We don't see all the plays that are being played behind the scenes of things. You know what I'm saying? Like the exploitation of resources, the assassination of leaders, so on and so forth. It's like if you can't see beyond that, then you're always going to be stuck in that paradigm, and then you're always going to be continuously exploited. There's no reason why we come from such rich, abundant places with resources, and all these places are poor. Whether we talk
Yes.
about, sugar cane, coffee, fruits, vegetables, or we take it back to Africa and all the resources that they have, the cell
Yeah.
phones, all the minerals that it takes, and all these places are poor. At some point, people are going to get to a point where it's just like enough is enough, and something has to change. And I do believe we're at that turning point.
Dang, that was deep. Wow. Okay, I wasn't expecting all that. That was deep.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you say that you still, I guess you still see the success here within the United States despite all the adversity, and including the fact that the country is so diverse as far as the different ethnic groups. Because a lot of times people will say, well, that's actually, the US is actually an example of how diversity doesn't work. Like I hear that argument a lot.
Yeah, I mean, maybe internally, but externally, it's working. It's the dominant, country in the world. You know what I'm
True.
saying? So, I understand that argument because we live it out every day. We live out in the United States every day. We see it. We see it play out in front of our faces.
Yeah.
But who doesn't have their faults? Who doesn't have traumatic history and atrocities and genocide? Those things are horrible, but they come along with the territory.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. So how do you feel about how the Latin community is faring as of right now, and within the United States, just to kind of keep it more centered here? Yesterday on the live stream, we were talking a bit about like the political scope of things, and somebody gave the example of how the Latinos in Miami, actually in Florida, have been able to use their votes in an effective way. And they give an example of I don't know if was it a governor or some type of state official, I don't know, but he was a Republican, but because he had gone so many times to Puerto Rico after the hurricane and everything, like he was able to get the Puerto Rican people's vote down there. And so he was basically saying that the Hispanics in Florida should be an example of how Hispanics can use their numbers and their power to actually get what they want. So, we touched a little bit on that. And then somebody else was mentioning how like Hispanics in the US like have, I don't know, like one of the highest GDP or whatever. So it's like, I feel like sometimes we don't even realize how much potential we have to really make a change in this country because we're so distracted by all the other issues going on. But anyway, what are your thoughts on some of that, as far as how the Latino community is faring here in the US?
To me, that's as hard as getting unification in the Black community, because there's so much division, there's so much self-hate, and so much animosity within that own community. In Florida, South Florida, it's easier for them to do that because the Cubans down there have a close history with the United States. It's very easy for them to fall in line with the infrastructure. You know what I'm saying?
Mm,
Um, there's too many different views within the quote unquote Latin community. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
if we're gonna get on code and we're gonna do something like that, we have to come to the table and figure out A, how we're gonna identify, B, what's
Mm-hmm.
our political agenda, and C, you know what I'm saying, how do we move as one unit moving forward politically? You know what I mean? Um, I mean, I definitely see it being possible. Anything's possible. It's just we have a lot of obstacles and a lot of things in our way, and that's a big building block in the political infrastructure. And there's going to be a lot of forces from all angles, both left and right, working against that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, politics is very ugly and very sticky and very. It's like the modern day religion. It's like it's become
Mm-hmm.
very toxic. You know what I'm saying? Um, so me personally, I try not to get stuck in them paradigms of political ideology, racial ideology, so on and so forth. I try to come to a rational conclusion, and often that doesn't suit the masses and the majority of what people are trying to do, because I feel like a lot of people are swayed either one way or the other rather sticking
Yeah.
with logic. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll never understand how people just blindly follow their political parties. I can never understand that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
No, we talked about that last night too.
yeah, like that's the true definition of one being polarized. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you lean too far, lean too left, you're unbalanced. It's like a circus show right now. It's very
Oh
hard,
yeah.
you know, to co-assign anything that's really going on. You know what I'm saying?
Facts.
So, like, I'm a very rational person. You know what I'm saying? And I think logically. I don't get me wrong. There's certain views and certain things that I feel that I guess could be considered a bit extreme. You know what I mean? But overall, I'm very rational, and I think with logic, and that's something that I feel is being lost in all this. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes, yes. Rational thinking. You would,
yeah,
I don't know, it like you said, a lot of people don't seem to be implementing that these days. And a lot of people are just sheep. Like they just kind of follow the trends or what they have been told to do, whether it be generationally or whatever it is. For example, with
yeah,
like the political party affiliations, I
yeah,
feel like we've been told we're supposed to vote a certain way and people just do it.
yeah.
They don't
I mean, I
really try to learn like the policies that these people are
implementing.
implementing, or they
Yeah,
don't look at like, okay, what have these people done for our group as of now? Nothing.
yeah, yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
you definitely see a lot of that going on.
I really can't hold them too accountable though too, because at the same time I really believe that the institutions that educate us aren't designed for critical thinking. I believe they're designed to program. You know what I'm saying? So you can't really hold. I mean, not to say hold. Everybody's accountable for their own actions, especially when you're an adult. But it's like it's really hard to be mad at somebody when you understand that the odds are just working against you in order to either A, speak truth to power, or even obtain some type of rational truth to whatever dynamic or paradigm you belong to. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, right. So you mentioned wanting to talk about some of the racial and cultural dynamics. So what, in terms of that, did you have in mind, or did you kind of want to touch on?
Well, I mean, I believe that's one of our biggest issues here in especially in the United States. You
Mm-hmm.
know, um, I mean, when I got on your stream and I said I was Afrocentric, I don't know if you remember, I put up the quotes because I
Mm-hmm.
really don't like to even put myself in no boxes.
Yeah.
And I don't. I often use things as an umbrella term in order to speak the language of whoever it is I'm speaking to.
Yeah.
But sometimes, a lot of the times, I may use certain vernacular or certain words that I don't even associate with myself. So, for
Mm-hmm.
instance, I might be describing somebody like say I'm talking to one of my dudes. I'm like, yo, the Spanish dude did that, yo, whatever the situation may be, right? Because I understand that's how he sees them. But me, I would never call myself Spanish. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying? Or even if this whole thing that brought me to your channel, the whole Hispanic unification, I will come I would come under that banner because I understand that's what mi gente is down with, and that's what is a unifying factor. But I don't identify with those terms at all, at all. Like I totally dismiss that from my reality. I don't know. Are you familiar with the Moorish Science Temple of America? Do you know anything about them brothers?
I've heard, but I mean, I'm not too familiar with it.
All right. Well, pretty much it's like a group of black people in America who do not identify as black. They totally against being called black. They like to refer to themselves as Moors because they trace their lineage back to the Moorish Empire that colonized Spain and got expelled in 1492. You know, so it's kind of like that. How I feel about being called Spanish, Hispanic, Latino, whatever. It's like I understand that's the dynamic of my people. So when they scream that black power, the Moors is there. They come to the table and they talk to the Hebrews, the Nation of Islam, all the people who come to that table. But the Moors don't classify themselves as black. So I'm kind of like that. I'm coming in the spirit of that, where it's like, yeah, I'll come to the table to talk what we got to talk about, but I'm not down with that Hispanic stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Even though I don't denounce it, I'm not advocating purging our culture and our heritage and stop speaking Spanish or none of that. I love the Spanish language, even though I don't speak it fluently. I think it's beautiful. And I encourage all people to learn multiple languages. The United States is one of the very few countries in the world that advocate to speak one language. That's very far. In ancient times, if you wanted to like go on to the higher education, like in ancient times, if you wanted to go to college, before you went to college, you had to speak at least 5 different languages. And most people around the world speak to 3 to 5 languages. You go to Africa, they speak 3 languages. You go to Europe, they speak 3 languages. You know, Asia, they're speaking at least 3 different dialects, you know. So I think it's a very arrogant approach to want to speak one language. So, you know, I'll never advocate the purging of wanting, you know, purging the Spanish language. You know, I would never do that.
Yeah. So you don't really reject like the cultural aspect of being Hispanic or Latino, whatever, but it's more so the labels.
Exactly, because these labels were put on us by Anglos. Latin was something that was given to us by a U.S. president. Hispanic was something that they started to call us when we started to engage in their Census Bureau in the United States of America. These are not things that we started to call ourselves. So why are we going to allow outside people to? If we had all put those titles on ourselves, even though I don't agree with that as a determining factor of who we are, I would accept it more. You know what I'm saying? If that's what we decide to call ourselves. But I don't see how I'm going to allow somebody outside from with the culture to define who I am. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like when we do that, we're denouncing other aspects of who we are instead of acknowledging the full experience of what it is to be Antillean, Caribbean, South American, or whatever you want to call it, wherever you're from. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's other aspects to the culture than just the Hispanic or the Latino. Because like Latin to me is a language. And then you have the derivatives of Latin, which is the Romance languages. And that's why they gave us that title, because that's what the colonizer taught us. You know what I'm saying? Hispanic is from Spain, or a Spanish person living in the diaspora. And I'm not saying that some of us are not that. Some of us are that. And if that's what you want to call yourself, then I'm going to respect it, because I expect you to respect what I say I am. So I have to give you that same respect. You know what I'm saying? So anybody who comes up to me, like, hola, papi, ¿qué tú haces? Like, you my peoples. And if they identify as that, then I'm going to respect that. I got people in my own family who say, yo, no, I'm Spanish. All right, bro, you Spanish. But, you know, understand what I am, what I'm saying I am. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
So when you saying that you feel like those terms kind of denounce the other aspects of who we are, so do you feel like the terms like Hispanic or Latino, whatever, they're more like Eurocentric, like they focus more on the European aspect of our identities?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And I believe, when I say I believe, it's because to me, when you say you believe, it's already to have doubt. So like, I believe, you know, Christina's gonna meet me at 6:30 versus I know Christina's gonna meet me at 6:30, knowing there's no doubt in that, in which you know I'm gonna be there at 6:30. If I say I believe, there's doubt within that. I'm not sure. I believe, you know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna try to not use that vernacular in what I'm trying to describe. So the way I see Eurocentricity, right, is an attempt to redefine history and writing it in the image of a certain one group of people. You know what I'm saying? A group of people who have historically done a lot of injustice around the world. You know what I mean? And purged a lot of culture and a lot of cultural expressions, sort of say. You know what I'm saying? Like, all right, when I was 17, I acquired what they refer to as the knowledge of self, and that terminology goes back as far as I can trace it to the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Are you familiar with him? From Jamaica?
Yep.
So when I was 17, I had older brothers kind of take me under their wing and give me what they refer to in the streets as a knowledge of myself. So I had to pretty much relearn everything that I was taught. You know what I'm saying? It's a different way of looking at things, but it's a more intuitive, more unbiased perspective of history. Because there's a lot of evidence that show and prove that A, there were Africans already here, B, that, you know, there was already a trading system between the continents prior to European conquest. You know, there's a lot of misinformation that we're taught, and it kind of, when we take on that perspective, it kind of feels like we belittle ourselves in that aspect. If you're taught that your history starts at slavery and ends in the barrio or the ghetto, it's kind of like you have no empowerment. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so with everything that's going on now, with the age of information, the age of disinformation, a lot of people are becoming more aware of the reality that we all live, because this is all of our history, not just Latinos, not just Black people. It's everybody's history. It's a narrative that just is not true. You know, and a lot of people are becoming aware of that. You know, so
yeah. Would you consider yourself Pan-African?
Yes, I would. I consider myself. I also consider myself to be Black, but when I say I'm Black, I don't necessarily fall in the paradigm of a racial category. I see Black and white as states of mind. It's not, or social classes. You know what I'm saying? So Black to me is the essence of everything. So like, if you right now, do this with me, close your eyes, right? And do a little experiment. You close your eyes. What do you see?
Black.
All right. Are you good? All right. So that's what I mean. When I say I'm Black, it just means that I come from the original man. That I am the original man. I derive from the original man. And everything in the universe comes from that. You know what I'm saying? Everything is born out of the darkness. So it's not saying that I'm a Negroid or a phenotypically, even though culturally I'm directly tied to the continent. You know what I'm saying? Because of all the influences in my ethnic group, whether it be Antillean, Borinquen, or whatever you want to call it, I have those direct ties. So I can sit here and say that I'm Black and have an argument and show and prove it through the bloodline, through the culture. But but it goes beyond that. It's just a way. It's a mind frame, understanding that I come from the origin of man. I come from the original man. You know what I'm saying? So in essence, we're taught the opposite of that. The white mind is the deluded mind. It's the weak and wicked mind. It's the mind that tells lies and it deceives, and it's the bloodsuckers of the poor. And so it's that mentality, but it's not necessarily I hate you because you're a fucking Caucasoid. Like, I don't care. You know what I'm saying? You're still a part of the human family. But if you think a particular way, and you think of me less than you, because that's what that Eurocentricity produces, it breeds that hate. You know what I'm saying? Because there's a lot that goes on to that. You know what I'm saying? But yeah. I don't know if I got that off the right way.
No, dude, you like on another level of thinking. Damn, I was not expecting that. Yo, dude, you like on another realm, another plane. Wow.
Yo, I don't mean to go over nobody's head, yo. It's just
this is good. This is like deep. I like it. No, it's good.
I'm glad you're feeling it. I'm glad you're feeling it.
Yeah, no, I've never heard someone describe being Black in that manner, or even like, you know, the whole white thing. Yeah, no, that was deep. That was deep.
Yeah.
So tying this back to our group, we definitely deal with a lot of issues when it comes to that.
Yeah.
When it comes to like the racial and ethnic aspects of our identity.
We got to destroy that. We got to get rid of that. And that's why I said earlier when I got on that live, I was like, we the missing pieces of the puzzle, because it's very hard for us to fall in that paradigm if we look directly at our own peoples. Look at our fathers, look at our mothers. It's like, how are you going to take on this hate for a color of a skin when every spectrum of the human genome is in our direct family? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
We have to get out of that mentality because it's designed to divide the people. And that's what baffles me is that on Facebook I like to post those who do not know history are doomed to repeat it, and then I'll just bomb them with a bunch of information on whatever's reflecting in current day that happened 20, 30, 40, 60 years ago in the same fashion. Meaning that we could look at, the 1800s and during the Civil War when you had people like John Brown. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He was a white dude who pretty much was a abolitionist. Pardon me if I say that word wrong. And he pretty much died for the cause. And then you can fast forward, look at today, you see all these white people out here fighting and ready to die for the cause. You know what I'm saying? It's a racial dynamic that's been going on since the beginning of time that they've been utilizing to divide the people. We got to stop that shit. It has to stop because it's polluting everybody's community, even the black community. I was watching a brother on YouTube that I highly admire his work. I'm pretty sure you know who he is. A brother named Tariq Nasheed. You know what I'm saying? I love the Hidden Color series. I even went out and watched 1804 in the movie theaters. I referenced his work, and then I seen him going at some beautiful body woman, and I just seen to me, I mean, it's some Willie Lynch shit. This is like Willie Lynch papers living out in modern day time. I don't know if you're familiar with the Willie Lynch papers, but it's like I don't understand how we can be such a prestige person, such an educated person, can be falling victim to such elementary, tactics. You know what I'm saying? You have this whole ADOS movement or the foundational Black Americans or whatever, and it seems like they're going at every other, like all African people of the diaspora. You know what I'm saying? I don't get that. I don't understand that. But like I said, it's plaguing everybody's community down to the bare minimum, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, when it comes to Turkish, I know some people are going to disagree with me. I'm not a fan, at least of the person he is right now. I wasn't
In
really
social
following
media, me
before,
neither. I don't
but
like. I don't like what he's
I
doing.
don't like him
Have you
very.
seen his works though? Have you seen his works?
I did see 1804. I did see
1804 was a
1804.
good
That was
piece.
good. Yeah.
You ain't never watched any of the Hidden Color series?
Mm,
I think you
nah,
should. I think you
because people
should.
have told me he kind of like has shifted. I guess he was more Pan African before, and for everybody else, and
Yo,
now he's
a
kind
lot
of like done the opposite.
a lot of what you see is going. You gotta be careful of of look. Some of the greatest teachers always taught me you take the best parts of everything you deal with and you run with it. Meaning, like if somebody trying to tell you, like I'm not a Christian, but I was raised Catholic, but that's not my culture, that's not my way of life. But there's certain values that I take from Christianity that I still hold near and dear to my heart today. Mosaic law, you know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna rob and steal, I'm not gonna kill nobody, I'm gonna honor my mother and father. These are things that are instilled in me that I still hold near and dear to my heart, even though I've rejected Christianity as a spiritual system for me, you know.
Mhm.
So a lot of what I see happening is a lot of people are starting to compromise their own integrity for the bag. There's a lot of agent provocateur shit going on. A lot of people coming out trying to discredit the movement and make us look stupid. A lot of that's going on. I'm not saying that's what he's doing. I don't know that man business, but it seems like a lot of these brothers is falling into that category. You got people like Brother Polite, who's been put on blast for scamming the people, and he came in the conscious community trying to, talk that shit. You got Umar Johnson kind of been put on blast. You got this dude who's been exposed since 2014, 13. He's all over. I don't know if you familiar with in fact the NFAC and all that that's going on, the Not Fucking Around Coalition, the Black Militia and all that.
Oh, okay. Now that you said it out, okay, yeah, I did hear about that.
The dude who's spearheading that, his name is John Fitzgerald or John Fitz Johnson. He goes by the name of Grandmaster J. He ain't no Grandmaster. All right, we exposed him in 2013. I'm a DJ. The DJ community exposed him in 2013 for trying to infiltrate the DJ community and sell a product that didn't do what it did. That's right there. That speaks to your moral integrity, trying to scam a community of people. Then fast forward a few years later, he got into the Black Lives Matter movement, right? Then he flipped. He was working with the cops, and he said all lives matter. Now he's coming out talking all this tough guy shit, wanting to go to war with everybody. Come to find out, he works for a cloud agency. If you do your homework, the dude's an agent, provocateur, there to stir up trouble. It's like Neo COINTELPRO. I don't know if you know about COINTELPRO, but COINTELPRO was an operation by the FBI that had to kill the rise of a black messiah. They're the ones who took out Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, so on and so forth. They go into all these grassroots organizations, they infiltrate them, they disrupt them, and they make them look bad, and bam, bam, bam. That's why all the organizations never work, from the Black Panthers to the Young Lords, so on and so forth. You know what I'm saying? So you gotta be careful. You gotta be careful because a lot of this shit is, disinformation and trying to just fuck with people's minds.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta make sense of it on your own accord. Knowledge, wisdom, and understanding has never failed me. Knowledge being the accumulation of information through learning, observing, and reasoning with logic. Wisdom being your wise words, or to have a wise dome or a reflection of your knowledge, to speak knowledge, that's your wisdom. Understanding, which is the completion of knowledge and wisdom, it's the best part. Because if you knowledge my wise words, you understand what it is that I'm saying.
Whew, okay.
It's never failed me. That's my key. That's my formula to obtaining the truth. Those three things right there. That's my Holy Trinity. That's my Father, Spirit, all that. That's my Holy Trinity right there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yo, dude, are you gonna make a channel? Cause
yo, word is born, yo. When I got on your live, what was this? Rapper Latino said that. Yo, you got your own channel? And everybody that I speak to says, yo, you gotta do your own podcast. And I've been real resistant on it, but I've been opening up to it. I'm like, you know what, yo, I can't escape this. They see everything I'm doing anyway. Because I've been under the radar for a long time. I've been like, I got like all kinds of like stickers on my cameras on my phone. I've been like that guy, but I know it ain't doing nothing. I might as well just join the peer-to-peer network.
Because you spitting a lot of gems out here, bro. Like you need to be on here, whether it's on YouTube or a podcast somewhere. Like you're obviously operating like on a different higher level of thinking. Like, so yeah, you need to put that out there.
Well, I appreciate that, yo. I like that vibration.
Yes. Like I said, I mean, I could tell like you knew your stuff from the live, but yeah, I didn't realize it was like, oh, it's like that. Okay. So I don't want to hear nobody in the comments talking shit because he Nuyorican, because this dude is on some other stuff in a positive way. So looking forward, how do you feel, or what would you say is some of the steps that we could take as a group here in this country to propel our group forward and to secure future success, future wealth, future like letting go of the baggage that we've carried from past generations? I don't know if this question is making sense, but what do you feel is like the best way for us as a group to move forward in this country?
As Latinos or in general?
As Latinos. And you can also say in relation to other groups here as well, because, there's always strength in numbers. So, banding with other groups is never a bad thing either.
Well, the thing about Latinos and Hispanic culture is very prevalent, and it's in the origins of the United States culture. It intertwines, with Mexico and then even Spanish Florida, so it's embedded within the United States. Like they have a say, you know what I'm saying? The first steps, I believe, is cultural preservation, of course. I believe we should be implementing Spanish as an official language in the United States, just like Canada has English and French. I believe that's something that we should be doing. I believe we should be advocating for critical thinking in the education system. Group economics is always important. You know what I'm saying? However, our culture is so vast, it offshoots into other cultures. You know what I'm saying? So like when I grew up, it was Black people who taught me or who took me under their wing when I moved out of Jersey City and I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, which wasn't many Puerto Ricans. You know, they're the ones who taught me, bro, we the same. We the same. You know, they taught me the history. They give me a lot of information. They make me feel at home. I related to them. You know what I'm saying? I go to their cookouts and I see at least 3 cousins that look just like me. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I feel like they very more acceptable to us than we are to them. You know what I'm saying? Especially when we leave our communities. It's because they look at us and it's like, yo, you look like my cousin. My cousin, you know, who got half white grandma or something like that. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, definitely we need to network with other ethnic groups and stuff like that. But I mean, every racial group does it as far as group economics. The Chinese do it. The Indians do it. You go to Chinatown, they practice group economics. The Indians practice group economics. And we do it to a degree, but we don't do it as well as other racial groups. You know what I'm saying? But we're pretty good at it. Like you said, somebody brought up the fact that we have the highest GDP in the country. I didn't know that. It doesn't surprise me though, because we're the biggest ethnic group.
I don't know if it's the highest or one of the highest, but we up there.
I mean, it don't surprise me. And you think about like all the different Hispanic groups in this country, and like Texas, man. There's places in Texas where you could go that are 100% Latino. The whole town is Mexican. Everybody, Laredo, Texas, like all these places that border that area. I've been there. I've seen it with my own eyes. Yo, it's crazy. Like you're like, this is America. Like, yeah, SA, this is America.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah. So you know. Economics is number one. Group economics is number one. You know what I'm saying? Then just fight for that cultural preservation. You know what I'm saying? And we can't be excluding other people. You know, outside of our dynamic, especially when we've interbred with other people and we kind of some of us have assimilated into the culture. You gotta be open minded. You gotta accept diversity and different views and opinions and work it within, and then come to the table and do what you do.
Right.
Yeah.
And the whole mixing with other cultures or the whole assimilation thing, that was something we kind of brought up on the stream last night too, because some people, I guess, they have the idea that if you do kind of say marry someone of another ethnic group and have children, blah blah blah, you're gonna lose your culture.
Not true.
Some feel like that we should only stick to each other as far as getting married and stuff like that. But I don't think that's necessarily always the case. I think see a lot of mixed families of two different cultures, and they raise the child under both cultures,
Yeah, it's definitely possible.
So yeah, I mean, I'm not like that close when it comes to the idea of mixing with other groups, but as far as the whole thing of assimilation into the greater American culture, I feel like as generations go on, and I said this last night too, it's just kind of inevitable, unless
it depends on the community. Because look at Chinatown. You been in Chinatown before? You been in New York?
Yeah, I've been to New York.
You been in Chinatown?
Yeah.
You didn't feel like he was in China?
I mean, I don't know. I've never been to China, but it was definitely very China-like feel. And that's something I mentioned last night too, that it also depends on the community in which you grow up, because you can have like second, third generation, whatever people, whatever country, but if they grow up in like a bubble where that culture is prevalent, like say grow up in like a Puerto Rican bubble or a Dominican bubble, whatever, then most likely you're still going to hold on to your culture.
Yeah.
But if you move to I don't know, South Dakota or something, then
or you know about the Amish in Ohio and
the Amish.
I love those people. I mean, I won't live like they do, but I admire those people. They're very admirable people. They're hardworking. They don't rely on the grain or the grid. I mean, they know scripture. They're disciplined. I mean, it's not my way of life, but I admire those people. Yeah. Or what about the 19 families of the African diaspora that just bought I think 100 and some acres down in Georgia? They call it Freedom, Georgia. That's the way to do it.
I didn't know about that.
That's the way to do it. They're trying to rebuild the Black Wall Street. That's
really?
that's how you take control. Because you can do this country, even though as corrupt and as crazy as everything that's going, we still have a certain level of freedom. We just have to take control, take it into our own hands. But if we're gonna live in these municipalities, if we're gonna rely on the government for everything, then you have to adhere to what the government says. That's what they're built to do. It's to govern. It's in the name. But if we come together, group economics, meaning we spend our money within our own communities, regardless of what it is, whether it's Amish, whether it's Chinese, whether it's East Indian, whatever it is, we have the freedom to do these things. And we, invest in land, and we engage in commerce, and we build our own community. You could build your own municipality, your own police department, your own banking systems. They're doing it all across the country, but a lot of people aren't privy to that. They think you got to go work for somebody else and make them millions of dollars and feed the machine. But technically, you could go do what you want to do.
Right. And I feel like sometimes we're just not taught a lot of times how to do that, or we're not taught that we can do that. Like you said, we're just kind of taught, you go to school, you go to college, and you get a degree to work for somebody else. That is the chain of events and how your life is supposed to play out.
Yep. You don't get real education until you go into like college, and then you got to pay for that.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And you will have those that are like, nah, F that, I'm gonna work for myself, and they go, the entrepreneurial route.
Yeah.
But it's like we really do have so much potential if we just kind of woke up to the reality that we can make this thing happen, and that despite the systems that are in place that are supposed to hold you down, you can still succeed.
Yeah, no doubt.
I don't feel like in reality what really is going to stop you or a certain group of people for if they decide, okay, like that, those families did, okay, we're going to go to this specific spot. We're going to build our own community, do our own thing, have our own schools, bank, churches, whatever. I mean, who's really stopping you?
Nobody.
Exactly. So it's just, it just requires that change in mentality. Like, yo, we can do this.
Yeah.
It's not impossible.
Yeah. Even the Nation of Islam, they own farms. They have their own economic infrastructure. They do powerful things, and a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people, especially in the Black community, like, oh, well, y'all always talking this. Y'all been around since this. What are y'all doing? They doing a lot. They have their own militia, the Fruit of Islam. They do a lot of good works. It can be done. It's just people just being programmed to feed the system. And that's cool too if that's what you want to do. If you're comfortable in that paradigm, I don't tell nobody how to live their life. You know what I'm saying? I just go over what resonates with me, what speaks to my spirit, and as long as I'm being a productive human being and living life righteous, striving to do what's right and exact at all times, then I'm good. My karma's good. You know what I'm saying? If you want to do whatever you want to do, I'm gonna respect it. If you want to be the Incredible Hulk, I'm gonna respect it. You want to worship Satan, that's what you want to do. Go ahead and do it. I'm not gonna go with you and do it, but I respect it.
Right.
Yeah. So that's just me. That's how I get down. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm pretty much the same way though.
I can tell, and that's why I like you so much. So I believe you to be a critical thinker, and even though I watch a lot of your videos, even though I may not always agree 100% with your analysis, I can see how you got to the analysis, and I respect it because you have an open mind. You have an open mind. I can tell that about you, and I really appreciate that about you.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I know not everyone that watches me is going to agree with 100% of everything that I say, and that's totally fine. But I'm also the same way with other people. Like, just because I might not 100% agree with you doesn't mean that I can't engage in conversation with you or just be cool with you. Like,
indeed.
And like you said, I do try to be pretty open-minded. I mean, I am pretty open-minded. So that's why I'm able to have these conversations with other people that at first glance, you might not think that we would really talk or whatever the case is. But, I feel like you can learn things from anyone,
Oh, yeah, indeed.
Even though we already have our own concepts and stuff like that. Again, you can learn anything from anyone. So
indeed.
That's why I don't close myself off to talking to other people.
Word.
And if others may think, though, you shouldn't be talking to them or whatever the case is, I'm like, okay, whatever, F y'all. I'm gonna talk to you a lot. Yeah. We're at almost at 52 minutes. Was there anything else you wanted?
Been that long?
Yeah. Conversation, it's been good. So was there anything else that you wanted to add before we kind of wrap it up?
Nah, I think we had a pretty good build. I think we got a pretty good. I hope I'm a a decent representation for Nuyorican and
Oh,
Bodies
yeah.
around the world. And once again, yo, I appreciate what you're doing. I'm in full support of it. I want to see you win. I admire your works,
Thank you.
and I hope something comes of it. I hope it continues to grow.
Thank you. Thank you.
No problem.
All right, y'all. Well, that was the interview with Mr. Stylez here. Unfortunately, he doesn't have a YouTube channel for me,
Not yet.
put y'all onto, but hopefully that will be coming in the future. And if you have any questions for him, definitely feel free to leave them in the comment section below. All right, so Stylez, thank you again,
Peace.
and I'll see everyone in the next video. Bye.
Peace.